Purim, Michael-ben-Pesach, Portnaar. When man receives in himself, in his heart, the sensation of the black point, that is to say, he becomes aware of it, this means that he passes from the state of speaking to the state of man. In our world, there are the states of lifelessness or lifeless, vegetable, animal, or speaking as is found in animals and thoughtless people, and then human. When a black point is placed in the heart of man, he begins to feel a keen need to find the root, the source of his origin, and ceases to be a bipedal, upright, highly evolved animal, and then becomes human. And that only because of the fact that a point of a higher world is housed in him. It is precisely the inclusion of the beginning of the spiritual world in the man of our world that ensures that a being of our world already becomes a being of the spiritual world. Such a being is one class higher than all other beings. From the moment the black point appears, man begins to develop the spiritual, unreasoned for the time being, but knowing what will happen to him. He begins to seek something higher than himself, something that does not belong to our world. In fact, he seeks the root of his origin. When, however, man understands the root of his origin, he comes to the Creator. For man has no other alternative or way to carry out his predestination under duress or by his free will. The human being begins to search for himself, but finds the Creator, because a human being emerges from the Creator. The black point in the heart, that is the desire for the higher, which is within the circle of all existing wishes in man, with associated pursuit of money, tribute, safety, and power. This point is usually hidden from man himself. The point is housed in man. It shows man that all pleasures of our world are not enough to satisfy him, since the point has its root above. It can only be satisfied by receiving from above, and as the black point develops more and more, the human being changes from a speaking to a human. The black point can only develop on the condition that the highest light reaches it. After the Tzimtzum Aleph, the light cannot enter the egoistic Kli. If the light enters the Kli in spite of the Tzimtzum Aleph, the breaking of the Kli will occur. Something like this once happened in the world Nekudim. In the following worlds it appeared that this disintegration of Kelim could not take place in them, but that the disintegration of the soul of Adam, Harishon, could take place. And after that, the light could not enter any of the selfish Kelim. Thus it appears that, as it were, we are cut off from the possibility of correcting our Kelim, vessels, souls. That is why we have been given the Torah, in which is the light, which should enter into us and correct us in such a way that we immediately begin to perceive eternity, the objective, true wisdom of understanding and feeling. How does that happen? While studying activities occurring in the spiritual worlds, although man himself does not yet perform them and is not yet in these worlds, he is influenced by the surrounding light surrounding him. For example, the Or Makif, which begins to shine on him from the outside according to the studied material. However, the shining of this light or makif depends on the intentions of the human being during learning. If the goal of learning is to purify the kelim and their correction, then the or makif will start to shine on man from the outside. However, if he pursues another goal or learns aimlessly, the surrounding light will cease to affect him. From that point in the heart should emerge a sphira, an embryo, ubar. Subsequently, the ubar, a state, develops. This is called the little spiritual state, i.e. katnut, when after all the wishes and possibilities, only the wish to give away remains. And such a condition is imperfect. If a man does not want anything, then he cannot receive anything and has nothing to give away. Man must carry out the creative purpose to receive a pleasure, but to receive it for the sake of the Creator. So the possibilities for receiving would become unlimited. In order to achieve this mixture of egoistic and altruistic desires, it must occur, i.e. an interaction between the kelim, the hashpa'ah, and the kelim, the Kabbalah. Such a condition is called the great spiritual condition, gadlut. In Megillat Esther, a process is described of the interaction between kelim, the hashpa'ah, and kelim, the Kabbalah. Initially, an attack on the king was prepared. The term always refers to the Creator. Mordecai, this is the state katnut of men, in which only the kelim, the hashpa'ah, have been corrected, or galgalta, inayim, keter, and chokmah. Heard that an attack on the king was being prepared and passed it on to his daughter, Queen Esther. The conspiracy was thwarted and the conspirators destroyed. Spiritual achievements have been discussed, which we will discuss separately. It might be thought that after Mordecai did everything to help the king, after he had proved his allegiance and wished to take nothing in return, the kelim, the hashpa'ah, wished nothing. And the king had to exalt Mordecai. But instead, the king raises Haman, the hater, the anti-Semite, and the enemy of Mordecai. Haman embodies a chap, that is, kelim de Kabbalah, egoistic wishes, in which, after their connection with the kelim de hashpa'ah and their complete correction, one can receive light from the Creator for the sake of bestowing. However, and therefore, the king exalts Haman, so that Mordecai could receive these selfish wishes, not just to give them. Purim is considered the highest festival. On that day, one should get so drunk that one sees no difference where Mordecai and where Haman is. In such a state, kelim de Kabbalah and kelim de hashpa'ah will be completely filled with the light chokmah, i.e. wine. The festival of Purim is opposite to the Yom Kippur. When we receive no light chokmah at all, as we make on a tzimtzum, with tzimtzum is represented in the world by fasting. And Purim, that is Gmar Tikkun, the final correction, the complete reception of the light in all kelim, between there is no more difference. Our world is under the rule of Atzilut. Everything higher than him does not belong to us. All correction in the world of Nekudim takes place under the administration of the world of Atzilut, which consists of 5 partsufim. The principal partsuf of the world of Atzilut, i.e. Arich Anpin, is completely filled with the light Chokmah, as is the partsuf Keter in the world of Adam Kadmon, Akar. And the Arich Anpin transmits light to the lower partsufim in small portions, which portions are called drops, so as not to harm them. These drops separate the flow and flow away, according to a certain system of light reduction, called sarot, hairs. The partsuf sarot is an external partsuf, which surrounds the Arich Anpin. In him there are hairs from the head and hairs from the beard. The first are above the screen, masach, and it is precisely through the hairs of the beard that the light descends down into the partsuf Abba v'Ima, Avi. In the partsuf Zeir Anpin, which is called Kadosh Baruch Hu, and in the partsuf Malchut, which is called Shekhinah, and from her the light descends further into the souls, which are the worlds Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, Biyah. While studying Kabbalah, do students not understand what they are learning for a very long time and cannot remember, as if everything from memory was deliberately erased? The point is that by studying our world, we can imagine, record, and portray what we study in one or another way. But when man studies spiritual science, the method of similarity and analogy does not help. Since our world, there is nothing of the kind to compare it with the spiritual objects. For the one who studies Kabbalah, there is no model of what he studies. And as long as a model of what he learns does not appear in a person, even if only a small one, even in the form of a point, until then it seems to him that he understands less and less the matter, and that he does not progress, but somewhere collapses actually. That can take a long time. It is an accumulation period, very much like the origin of life, the division and multiplication of cells, and as long as they are small in number, they are not visible. But, as long as an embryo of the spiritual Kli appears in man, he begins to understand and remember everything. Man begins to perceive how that works, how every second the subject matter, as it were, is going to shine, illuminating everything around it, i.e., further movement will take place. And if he realizes that everything that happens to him emanates from the Creator, from some higher force, although not clearly perceived by him, then he has an unambiguous inner conception of it. And it is only through this willpower, which is accompanied by the intention to reveal the Creator, and he begins to perceive him, thereby revealing his face. And the purpose of the Creator is to bring man to a state of perfection, that is, to a complete confluence with the Creator, to a state of infinite love, as a result of comprehending the absolute goodness, love of the Creator to him. There are such conditions when man seems to perceive the spiritual world and does not even believe his Rav, who does not endorse that. So real do his sensations seem to him. But there comes a point when the true seeing of the world is revealed to man, not around him, but in him. Man sees then what everything in the world is. That is the Creator, the activities of the Creator, that everything that surrounds him, these are various forms of influence of the Creator on man. He clearly realizes and apprehends that the spiritual staircase that he is on the spiritual staircase, and that therefore it takes place because the light begins to enter the Kli prepared by the man. The man receives a soul, which soul then teaches him to move forward. The man receives a soul, and which the soul then teaches him to move forward. The knowledge is then introduced together with images, and he no longer needs a book. The Torah is his guide. Man knows and sees clearly what to do and how. And only when, or only then, does he begin to really understand that he is in complete emptiness. For others, that is hidden for the time being. In the condition of the Creator's double hiding, man does not even think of the Creator's existence. In the singular concealment, man understands and realizes that everything emanates from the Creator. But he does not yet perceive him. But it is already the beginning of the revelation. The condition of partial revelation of the Creator can occur as a result of some serious experience, a mental crisis, stress and distress, since the sorrow in the heart, as it were, unconsciously invokes the Creator. But because man has not yet completed his Kli through learning with the right intentions, there is no place where he can receive such a gift from the Creator, and the state of partial disclosure of the Creator gradually disappears. Man no longer descends from the spiritual world into the sensations of our world alone, since in the spiritual one can only come up. If such a descent does take place, it is manageable. If one studies every arbitrary science of our world through its spiritual root, such a study is called Kabbalistic. The true Kabbalah does not study what will happen to man in the future in our world, because it is based on man's going out of our world in the spiritual and in the future. But everything now being done under the guise of Kabbalah, astrology, transcendent practices, quackery, divination, is done only to attract people by calling themselves Kabbalists. The Kabbalah, that is the method of correcting oneself in the world, not just the science in our usual understanding, the human being who engages in the Kabbalah for his own correction is not affected by any astrological and other prophecies. They all base themselves on the psychological and psychic traits of a concrete person, but that doesn't relate to whether or not his kli has been corrected. The honest transcendental predictors recognize that they can say nothing at all about a Kabbalist except the fact that they see neither him nor his future. They see that he is immeasurably distant from them, that one cannot reach him through their efforts. Kisei Haman, coat bags from Haman. As to the fact that this is customary, it is customary to eat at the festival of Purim Kisei Haman, Haman's cloak bags, biscuits of a certain shape. Baal Sulam said, "For this we eat Kisei Haman." Remember that Haman gave us nothing more than the cloak bags, which are called kelim, empty vessels, and did not treat us to pnimiyut at all, inner filling. The statement reads, only the kelim of Haman can receive, and not the lights, which are called pnimiyut, because most of the kli Kabbalah vessels of reception, the will to receive, is in Haman's possession, and we must in particular take his kli Kabbalah from him. However, it is impossible to attract the light using kelim de Haman, but it is with the help of the kelim de Mordecai, which are the kelim de Hashpah, the wish to give away, because the kli de Kabbalah has a limitation, which is set forth in writing in the Megillat Esther, chapter 6, part 6. And the Haman said in his heart, to whom would the king pay homage? To whom but me? And that is the real wish to receive, and so he requested the royal robe in which the king usually wore himself, as well as the horse on which the king rode, etc. But to tell the truth, the kelim de Haman are not kelim de Kabbalah, as they cannot receive anything because of the limitation. Sadly, Haman has only a desire and want, that is, he knows what to demand of the king, and therefore it is written in Megillat Esther, chapter 6, part 10. Take immediately the robe and the horse, and do what you said to Mordecai, the Hebrew. And that is to say, the lights of Haman are in vessels of Mordecai, that is, in the kelim de Hashpah. This is also reflected in the festival of Purim. The whole purpose of Purim is that Jews, who in their nature belong to the altruistic side of man, that is to say, to the kelim of giving, also for them it is not enough to be like Mordecai, only by their kelim of giving to serve the Creator to achieve salvation. They also have to work on themselves to take over the kelim of Haman, which are the kelim of reception, and there is nothing wrong with taking over from Haman, but not like Haman. So not like Haman trying to selfishly fill that kelim with the pure light, Chokmah, but they have to take that kelim from Haman and fill it in a kosher way. That is with light, Chasidim, in which there is glow of Chokmah. And with that, the Jews will also receive absolute freedom and redemption, which is given as a symbol of or at this feast. There is also a rule that a Jew may drink so much during this feast and he no longer sees a difference between Mordecai and Haman, so that he no longer sees a difference between the kelim of giving and the kelim of receiving, because at that moment he uses both. That means that the Jew is going to connect to himself the kelim of giving, which are proper to him by his nature, to the kelim of Haman, but he uses them in a kosher way, i.e., first it make it suitable, and then receive therein the light Hasidim with a glow of Chokmah. And only through this does the Jew come to fulfillment and to salvation, as seen in the miracle of Purim. And that is why it is also written that in Gmar Tikkun there will be no more difference between Haman and Mordecai, between Jew and not Jew, and the feast of Purim is a symbol of it. For both will then receive the light of salvation. The Hebrew must then work more in his kelim, the Kabbalah, And for this they are, among other things, also banished, and scattered among the peoples of the world, in order to absorb the kilim of the Kabbalah, because only then will the Jew fulfill his mission. And the non-Jews who belong to the kilim, the Kabbalah, the kilim of reception, will then develop kilim of giving within themselves. Be well.